House Democrats are anxiously working to pass President Biden's social spending and physical infrastructure bills. New provisions were added last minute to the spending bill, including one previously dropped during negotiations. CBS News congressional correspondent Kris Van Cleave has more from Capitol Hill.
There is new momentum towards a vote on President Biden's $1.75 trillion social spending program, and it could come as early as tonight once Democrats feel they have enough votes to go forward. Now, Tuesday was a bit of a wake-up call for Democrats. The loss in Virginia, the narrow victory in New Jersey has galvanized the party that they need to do something ahead of the midterm elections. So what's in the bill as of now? In the House bill, major items include hundreds of billions to address climate change, an extension of the child tax credit, universal pre-K, and prescription drug pricing reform. What's not in the bill? Tuition-free community college, clean energy standards, as well as expanding Medicare to cover dental and vision. Immigration reform remains a bit of a question mark, and Speaker Pelosi has put paid family leave back in the bill, but West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin opposes that. So what's becoming clear is if and when the House passes this bill, it's going to get changed in the Senate. Lana?
All right, Kris, thank you. For more, I want to bring in Siobhan Hughes. She's a congressional reporter for the Wall Street Journal. Siobhan, as Kris mentioned, paid family leave is back in the latest version of this bill after being dropped. People that I've spoken with at the White House, progressive members of Congress, have all said that paid family leave was critically important. But Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says that he still opposes it. So exactly why is this a non-starter for him?
Joe Manchin just has a very, very set belief that if you give benefits to people while they're not working, that is fundamentally damaging to the economy. It's a disincentive to work. It's a core belief for him. And so as a result, it's something that is highly unlikely to change in the Senate. And as your correspondent mentioned, this is something that is likely to require the bill to get changed in the Senate and therefore have to go back to the House for another vote.
So, Siobhan, then what is the strategy, the Democratic strategy behind adding this provision back in, especially given that the bill is either going to fail in the Senate without Manchin's support or need to come back to the House, as you mentioned, for reconciliation?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things at play here. Number one here, Nancy Pelosi has a belief that in negotiations like this, you lay out your high water mark, you express your values and say what you want to do as a caucus, and then when you have to settle for less, the voters will understand what you were aiming for. Number two, I think, though, there's something else here at play, which is that the losses in Virginia, the too close for comfort race in New Jersey sent a message to Democrats that their window of opportunity was closing. And so there was no harm in going for broke, in trying to tell voters what they could win if they decided to elect Democrats again in control in 2022. So just a couple of the political dynamics at play.
That's interesting because these negotiations, as you are well aware, and as our viewers are well aware, have been drawn out for months. I was wondering why the urgency to get it passed before week's end. Is it because of those election results, Siobhan?
The election results are certainly a piece of it. You also have a lot of Democrats going to Glasgow for climate negotiations, and the U.S. is in a stronger position if it can show that at least one chamber has passed strong climate measures. Don't forget also you are coming up against deadlines to keep the government funded. That's about a month away. The Congress still has to increase the debt ceiling so that government financing can continue. And if you back up this major priority against all of these other must-pass deadlines, it becomes increasingly hard to enact Joe Biden's agenda. And there is a real desire not to let this spill over into 2022, which is an election year when voters will be much, much more attuned to the decisions that their Democratic lawmakers are making in that moment.
Siobhan, we know that the White House wants to pay for the spending plan with tax increases on wealthy Americans and corporations. Do we know how much money it's estimated to generate?
Yeah, so overall, this is going to generate about $1.5 trillion, which is almost enough to cover the entire package. And Democrats are calculating that a couple of other provisions, the ability to negotiate for drug prices, Also, some IRS enforcement measures will be more than enough money to finance the social spending and climate measures. But like you say, the bulk of the tax burden will be borne by wealthy individuals, people with incomes, for example, of $10 million and above, and corporations, which will be subject to a new 15% minimum tax, essentially both here and abroad.
Meanwhile, the president's roughly $1 trillion traditional infrastructure plan also still needs to be voted on in the House. Is there any chance that we see a vote on that before lawmakers vote on the larger economic package?
That is certainly not the strategy that Nancy Pelosi has laid out. She is very clear that she wants the larger social spending and climate package to receive a vote before the infrastructure bill gets passed, because don't forget, that infrastructure bill has already passed the Senate. Once the infrastructure vote passes the House, it is essentially law, and the progressives lose their opportunity to use that as leverage to shape the social spending bill in a way that they want it to be shaped.
Lots of interesting dynamics. All right, Siobhan Hughes, thank you.
Always good to talk to you.